Hello, everybody. Ryker Richard here. The Raptors, they almost did it. They almost blew a 30-point lead. And we're not going to get into that because let's just say there's been enough stress this season. Winning games, losing games. But they hung it out. They pulled through. 130 to 121 final score. Toronto Raptors, they come out on top. Now, they're playing one of the top Canadian NBA players in the league right now. You can put in your arguments for Jamal Murray. Obviously went down recently with an injury. Perhaps Andrew Wiggins. There's a handful of others. But Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, this man has been on fire. Tonight did not disappoint either. 21, 6, and 6. A youngin'. He's out there. He had a fantastic game last outing against the Toronto Raptors at the Scotiabank Arena, where obviously the Thunder came out with a victory. But despite their best efforts to come back, tonight was all about the Toronto Raptors. And you look through the box score. If you just pull it up, if you didn't watch the game, or even if you did and you didn't really know, it's surprising. Every single player that you can see, top 6, top 7 players, scored in double figures. Every single person in the starting lineup, minimum 15 points. Norm Powell, 23 points. It's one of those games where we're just going to be reading off the stat lines, basically. OG Anunoby looked revitalized, coming off of an 8-point game, and he was absolutely... I don't want to get ahead of myself because there's too many big plays and exciting things that happened this game, but just the abridged version of everybody's performance, OG Anunoby was looking confident from behind the arc, and then had a few really good playmaking opportunities tonight's game. 5 assists, which is uncharacteristic from OG, but we know all throughout the season his ball handling's been developed, and if his court vision is developing too, then hey, he's becoming the player that Ben and I have both been touting him to be. He's exciting to watch. He's obviously been athletic, and they relied on him really heavily tonight, 38 minutes. He was looking tired towards the end, but still hung through. Kyle Lowry, another good game. Only 6 made field goals tonight, but 2 of those were in the final 2 minutes of the game when it was down to 3 points. His leadership, his veteran leadership, his aggressiveness, his willingness to take those big shots. I believe he had a floater in the lane over Muscala and some other hard take that was really what separated it from being a 1-possession game to a 3-possession game. Put the nail in the coffin. Kyle Lowry, he does it night in and night out. Some nights the inconsistency is really a killer, especially for me. It's really frustrating to watch sometimes, but you can never doubt that he's a gamer. He goes out there, he relishes these big moments, he likes it when the crowd gets loud, and before we go any further, a good segue. Tonight, it was really good. I don't know many other teams in the NBA regular season. Your team is 7th in the conference, the Thunder. They're 7th in the West, and down by 30 points. Somehow, the crowd remained engaged and attribute it to the 4 consecutive three-pointers that were hit to close out the first half by the OKC Thunder. They were down by 30 points. They brought it back into whatever 30 minus 12 is, I guess 18. That really brought up the morale, but I genuinely can't think of many other teams, given the circumstances, where the crowd would be that engaged when their team was losing the entire game. And you could see that the OKC Thunder were feeding off that energy. Dennis Schroeder was getting amped up. He was trying to fire up the rest of his team, and they really did their best to come back into it, but that also made it fun to watch. And that's a big criticism, obviously, with any game in the regular season, unless it's a big rivalry, it's that it just slows down, right? Second, third quarter, in some games, they're almost irrelevant to watch. It just, the pace gets slow, it gets drawn out. But it's games like this when the full court trap comes out. It's back and forth. The crowd is into it. That's what makes it fun. That's the reason that they're looking for ways to, get more excitement to the All-Star game. And they're looking for how they can boost ratings, because it's games like this that it's what really basketball is all about. This was a fun one to watch, despite, that nail-biting ending. And not because it was just a good competitive game, but because the Raptors almost let a 30-point lead blow. But I digress. I just think I like what I saw. I like when I see the guys go out there, and you could see that first possession when OKC went up in the full court. right after Patrick McCaw got a turnover. The Raptors, they're used to being the ones pressing, but I guess they're not used to being the team that has to break the full court, so that it took them a few possessions to figure out how exactly to respond to that. But anyways, continuing along, Marc Gasol. Another story of the game. Back from injury. We still don't have a full team. Van Vliet's out. Regardless, Marc Gasol back from injury. If you're a fan of post moves, you're never going to see it from Marc Gasol. You're never going to see big man basketball, even when he gets positioned down low, even when he gets inside the block, even when he gets under the basket. He still fades away. He loves his fadeaway. He loves his runners. Even when there's a little bump, he'll fade right back on his runner and put up a baby hook, fadeaway jump shot. You will never see this man do a pump fake and come through. You're never going to see him go in through contact, even though he's bigger than any other center. But with that being said, efficient game tonight. Actually had a lot of points. We're used to Marc Gasol being in that 4 to 6 point range, and tonight he was stroking threes. He had a few of those floaters on the inside. His playmaking was good, and every time it seemed that there was a stretch going the other way against the Raptors, they'd stick Marc Gasol in, and he'd sort of anchor the team, which is good, of course. Pascal Siakam, good. And then Serge Ibaka started 6 for 6 in the first quarter. 11 points. And then I guess he went 1 for 5 for the rest of the game. Not as many touches and a few missed layups and some close shots. And that's it. That's the way it goes. The Norman Powell, another good game. Like I said, we could just be reading off of the stat line here, basically. But all around, it was Raptors night to night. Most of the players shot extremely efficiently. And the three-pointers, they were falling. They were stroking. And Raptors, characteristically, are not a team that's going to make 130 points night in, night out. They're going to usually play to the level of the team that they're playing against. They're not usually, they try to push the pace, and they usually achieve that in the first half, but it ends up most of the time, I would argue, correct me if you think I'm wrong, but I would say most of the time the second half is dictated by the other team's tempo. And so the Raptors, they're not terribly high-scoring team night in, night out. The 3-point's not always consistent, but when it is, man, it's fun to watch. Like the first half, and then finally we're going to get into the segments, because I've been itching. Man, there's been some good plays. We'll start it with the spicy play of the day. It's not one play. It's not 2 plays. But it's 3 plays. That's right, 3 back-to-back consecutive plays, starting with the end of the third quarter. You know it. Norman Powell. He makes a shot out of nowhere over Chris Paul. A double clutch. He's falling, he's fading, he's floating, all of the above. Just a sideways, awkward angle. And like I said, double clutches, double pumps into just a clean 3. No rattling, just splash. Nails it down. That would have been enough to satisfy the Pele of the day. However, to start the fourth, 31 seconds into the fourth, OG Anunoby, 2 dunks in a row. They get up on Dennis Schroeder, force a turnover, fast break dunk for Anunoby. And then for some reason, like a running back who just gets ahead of the crowd, gets ahead of all the defense, they just throw that easy lob over the tops of everyone's head, right into Anunoby's mitts to cram it down for a second time. So that, what would you call it? Double trifecta? Yeah, that's the word. That trifecta of plays is getting the Pele of the day, but not all of them can be the spicy Pele. Some make you say, oh, geez. Tonight's OGs. It's not 3 plays, but it's 2 plays, both positive. Started with, again, back-to-back. Started with Marc Gasol. You didn't call it. Didn't call it. You don't see it often either in the NBA. A straight-on bank shot. Not even on an angle. Straight-on bank shot for 3, and it was high off the glass. So we'll give him those points. And then the very next possession, the clock is down. OG Anunoby has it in his hands. You know he's going to have to heave up a shot, a toss, a prayer, and just somehow floats it into the rafters and gets that swish. 2 back-to-back threes that had no business going in that did. That makes you say, oh, geez. Made me say, oh, geez, at the very least. And then finally, the one, the only DeMarre Carroll Gold Star Award tonight. We're going back to fundamental basketball, people. I'm sure some of you have played basketball. Some of you might even coach basketball. And what's one of the fundamentals when you're running out to guard a player that's out beyond the perimeter. I'm not wording this extremely correctly. However, you shuffle out. You have a hand up. You stay down. And I understand some strategy in the NBA because players have becoming such good, such prolific three-point shooters is that sometimes you want to chase them off the line. But there has to be a threshold. There has to be a line in the sand. And tonight, not a single player could be stopped from just an easy blow-by, whether it was Dennis Schroeder, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, even Mike Muscala, Danilo Gallinari, everyone. As soon as a man ran out to them on three, they just simply walked by the Toronto Raptors, and that's not acceptable. Stay on your feet. Shuffle out. Hand up. Fundamental basketball, guys. Fundamental. They were just running, stiff knees, and once your man gets past you, you have to adjust. Even if you stay down and get past you, at least you can rotate, and you can slide to your next matchup or whatever the rotation, whatever the defensive rotation is going to be. It just seemed too easy. It really did. That's my plea to the Toronto Raptors. Otherwise, I mean, who knows? Against a slightly better team, they could have lost this one. And that would have been quite embarrassing. But thankfully, it wasn't. It ended up being a solid evening of basketball. Anyways, that's it for the pod. Thanks so much for making this far if you did. Check out the Twitter, the Instagram, all that good stuff. I noticed that there's a fan angle photos. I don't know how consistently it happens. Sometimes we don't get that TSN stream when we're watching, but we're going to try to get a photo up on that because I don't think that it's very hard. I don't know how many people are tweeting at Matt and Jack or Matt and Leo, but I think it'd be fun to get a photo up during the game of the Raptors Digest squad. So we'll see. Stay tuned. All right, guys. Cheers.